I'm Janet Daywald. I work for Ken Sherwood. He is the Executive Vice President, and we are doing a presentation here tonight called Dress for Success. And we have two gentlemen here who are going to let us know what they think of the whole process, and when we're all done, we'll ask them a few questions and have a PowerPoint here that we're going to flip through pretty quickly, and they have a handout, and then they have a roll of breath mints. So get your breath mint for your next interview, and we'll get started. One of the first rules you need to know is you're not going to do this. You're not going to get dressed up for the job that you're going to hopefully get. A lot of people make that mistake. This is not the way it works. Part of this process can be heartbreaking. Well, a lot of it can be heartbreaking. And you're going to go on a lot of interviews and you're going to get a lot of practice. One of the things you need to know is dress for success. And like these guys, you know, they're collecting trash, but they're wearing their suits that they wore to their interview, but they got the job. On the internet is absolutely a treasure trove of information about what to do and what not to do. And all of the folks here are totally capable of going and Googling this and finding all of these fun before and after pictures. So we're just going to go through them really quick. But obviously the guy on the left, not there for an interview, the guy on the right, he is. But that's the same guy. And you go, this guy's an actor. And you're onto something. The before and after for this lady. And you look at that and you go, whoa, she's got costumes, she's got props, she's got different mannerisms. It's like, she's an actress. You're onto something here. This is a little more detailed about what to wear and what not to wear. The lady in the upper left kind of looks like she's going shopping, but don't wear that. We'll get into the reasons why. And this guy here, again, this is all the same guy. He's an actor or a model. But you can see that he's very dressed up in the middle, a little more casual on the left, but on the right, I mean, he's got high water pants. His suit jacket is a little bit too tight. And what you can't really see is he's wearing a black belt with brown shoes, which is absolutely no good. And again, men and women, and you can see how I'm dressed, black and white, very boring. But again, we'll get into the reasons for that. Now, here's just some pictures that I pulled out of the internet. And right off the bat, which one would you think would be dressed appropriate for a job interview?
The guy with blue jacket in the black and white.
This guy?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Were you like him?
I wouldn't say it.
You like the guy with the hat? You like this guy too?
Yeah,
Or you like the guy with the flower shirt? Okay. Well, one of the things that humans are kind of in our lizard brain after like about 40,000 years of learning how to be civilized is that bright colors and contrasting colors are disturbing to us. It kind of gets us a little bit frustrated because we can't quite see these guys' faces because this shirt's really cool. This is pugs. Okay, those are like pug dogs. And that guy's got a flowered shirt on, and all this is the latest stuff. This is from Esquire and 21 Forever and all that kind of stuff. All of this is just okay and perfectly good fashion for you. But we are attracted to his tattoo and his shirt. And we're kind of like wondering why he's got a cap on. And you know, the guy with the flowered shirt seems pretty intense, almost a little bit threatening. So this is one of the reasons why we don't wear prints or plaids or bright colors to an interview, is because sometimes culturally, and especially on a subconscious level, we're a little bit frightened of it. Oops, wrong way. Now, this is where it gets harder. All of these dudes pretty much look alike. So, but what's starting to come through is that it's their faces. Okay? Their faces are now becoming the thing that we're going to look at. And because we're looking at their face, we're going to look and listen to what they have to say. We're not worried about where the pugs came from on the guy's shirts. There's only one thing wrong in this picture, and you can't really see it, is that guy's shirt is wrinkled. It is wrinkled really, really badly too. So if you were interviewing these guys, you would say, pink shirt. That took a little bit of, I like that. The pink tie, I kind of like that. And, the guy in the lower left is, he's okay. I would talk to him. Same thing's true for women. You have a lot of colors, you have a lot of brightness, but instead of being kind of afraid of them or disturbed by them, you have a tendency to think that they're somewhat frivolous and maybe a bit not serious about things. But the girl in the black dress is obviously dressed up for an interview and has a, you're looking at her face. You're not trying to figure out where that dress came from. And again, for women, same thing. Very pretty in the upper left, but it's a bit too ethnic. It might be off-putting to some people. You certainly don't want to wear patterned capris. And this gal in the upper right is actually just about perfect, except she's wearing open-toed shoes. You guys don't need to worry about that, right? But for you, that means don't show up in Birkenstocks, right? You do not wear open-toed shoes to a job interview, and we'll get into that later. Right? You just don't wear Levi's. That's all there is to it. I don't care what you're interviewing for. Never, ever show up in a pair of Levi's. And we'll go into that more in the handout that I have. Now this is a little bit of practical help. Okay? This happens. I have interviewed ladies with lipstick because one of the last things we do, we get all nervous. We all put on lipstick. And we put on too much. And we don't realize it. So this can happen to you. Don't eat before your interview. If you have to eat, go find a toothpick and a mirror. Because you would be surprised how often crazy things like this happen. This is one of the reasons why you should wear a jacket to an interview. If you don't have a jacket, see if you can borrow one or whatever, because not only does a jacket give you gravitas, it gives you importance. You are a man that wears a jacket. It covers up this. Don't show up wrinkled. Learn how to use an iron. Have your mom or your girlfriend or your sister iron your shoes. Try your clothes on sitting and make sure that things like this don't happen. You'll be fine. Always wear socks to an interview. If you don't wear socks, you will not, there's this whole thing about shoes, and I'll get into this in a sec. You have to be well shod. You have to have good footwear, which includes socks that match. Shoes. Shoes are really interesting because people who interview people actually get trained on how to look at people's feet and their shoes. If you ever watched Sherlock Holmes or read any Sherlock, he would look at some person's shoes and he would tell you how they got there. Did they come in a car or a carriage or whatever? Or maybe if there's something on them, he would know that they were on a farm or something like that. Because your shoes tell a lot about you. Your shoes can be worn. They have to be clean. and they have to be polished. They can't be too scruffy because people look at shoes who are interviewing. Because you might have a lot of nice clothes and maybe not a lot of really good shoes because shoes are expensive. They'll look at your shoes and are they brand new? You know, do they still have the sticker on the bottom of the price? And this happens. So pay attention to your shoes. It's really important. It tells a lot about how you feel about yourself as a person. And a certain amount of socioeconomic stuff too. Women, same thing. Shoes are important. I have these shoes. They're very plain. They're comfortable. Nobody would look at those shoes and be able to tell anything good or bad about them. So you kind of want them to be like, don't shout, you know, I've got really bad shoes, or whatever, or I'm wearing, you know, $900 pair of shoes. You don't want to convey that. And again, you know, you have to kind of keep a sense of humor about this. There's all kinds of cartoons on the internet about job interview funnies. And, you know, this guy is like, you know, devoid of professionalism, but for clowns. So you're hired. And notice that, you know, they're both kind of wearing the same kind of clownish things. He probably wouldn't have tolerated him if he came in with a suit, right? Because, you know, he wants to establish a connection. And again, he's got, you know, the clown that got the job has pretty good shoes. And if you think we're trying to turn you into, you know, the war of the clones, this is true. It's only for a short period of time. You can do it, right? Okay? We all feel like that. I mean, look at me, right? This would be my interview outfit. This was not the one I wore for this job. I wore a gray one, but pretty close. And you also, when you're thinking about what am I going to wear, have to do a little bit of research. Because these are companies around here that hire. And you need to know, well, obviously, you know what Disney does, right? And we all know what Amgen and what Apple and what Starbucks does. But you can actually go out on the internet. There's a place called glassdoor.com. And it's all about people who went to these interviews and came back and reported about what happened. And I just pulled up Disney. And here's a guy that went, he had a beard. And when he was through with his interview, he said, you know, I really should have rethought the beard. Because they mentioned it, but they didn't say it was bad. But, you know, get rid of the beard. Disney also does about 3 or 4 phone interviews with you first. So you don't have to like totally get wound up for, you know, face-to-face if you're going to go with somebody like Disney. But during those interviews on the phone, you can ask that person, you know, what would be appropriate to wear to this interview? And if they say, oh, really, really casual, showed up in Levi's, red flag. They're trying to fake you out. You show up in acceptable interview clothing, which is not Levi's. You have a chance to like pick their brain. Somebody showed up with tattoos and thought they should have dressed better. So you can research, if some of these are, you know, big enough companies, you can research the pitfalls that other folks made. And again, if you can try to figure out what, you know, what the interviewer likes, which is not necessarily yellow dress, green hair, but that interview person is going to be dressed pretty much like me. And yes, you're going to be turned into clones. It's a given. It's a given. But hey, you can do this. You can definitely do this. So in the handout, I kind of went over some of this stuff in a little bit more detail. But you know, we've met the guys on page 2. And you know, something that's really interesting is if you're applying for a creative job, or like you're applying for something to deal with animals, right? If you want to be a touch creative, do you have like a parrot tie or a dog tie?
No.
No? It's just like plain ties. Well, that's the least amount of risk, would be the plain tie. But if you showed up with like maybe, some of Jerry Garcia's ties have parrots in them. If you showed up with parrot tie or some kind of tie that had animals in it, that would be a plus. A little bit of creativity is not bad. But we've already met these guys and we've already figured out that, we're not gonna be too impressed with the guy with the tattoos in the photos, right? Always wear a long sleeve shirt. You don't want to show too much skin. I mean, if you have tattoos or something else on your arms, you do not want to show that because a certain amount of skin is perceived as threatening. I mean, if I show up like, in a bathing suit or something, all ripped and muscular, I mean, you're going to be like totally freaked because why? It's too much skin. It shows people react adversely. It's like, look at, many religions that insist upon people getting like totally covered from head to toe because too much skin is considered provocative or threatening. And all of this, just a little piece of it, are still in our brains today. So long sleeve shirt and tie. The tie can be pink, it can be patterned, it can be somewhat creative, but no short sleeve shirts. In fact, some fashionistas will say never wear a tie with short sleeve shirt. Now, there's a lot of nerds out there that would disagree with you, but usually a tie is associated with a long sleeve shirt. No Levi's. And if you've ever watched the movies Rebel Without a Cause or Streetcar Named Desire, those were two pivotal movies in which Americans were introduced to Levi's or blue jeans. Marlon Brando and James Dean did an absolute incredible sell job. And something that was people in the Navy wore Levi's, or my dad was in the Navy, called them dungarees. Prisoners wore them. All of a sudden, the way these two guys acted in these movies and the whole story, you'll kind of see how your parents' generation got into how it's a statement of rebellion. So if you're going to show up at a job interview, and even if those blue jeans are clean and pressed and whatever, it's still a little piece of rebellion. I might not clean out all those animal cages that you asked me to do. I might just stand there and slouch. So you have to watch that. So, like, okay, on page 3, what's the mistakes in the bottom pictures?
Short socks versus long socks.
Unmatched socks.
They don't match, man. I mean, you probably don't do this, right?
This one.
But let's say you're in a hurry or something. One is black and one's navy or something. Yeah. So what else? What's the guy in the lower left?
You wear a thing.
His pants are too high.
They're okay, but I don't think you see them. He's got black shoes with a brown belt.
Yeah, brown belt, yeah.
If you learn anything from this session, black shoes and a brown belt, it doesn't work.
But would it be a problem if you cover your belt with a jacket?
Well, you could get away with that, but you would have to be sort of like fiddling, and making sure.
Try to hide it.
Just have black belt and black pants.
Okay.
Or, brown belt and brown shoes, that's fine.
Jewelry.
And the jewelry, I mean, that's a bit much, but, in this day and age, one single piece of jewelry is not bad. But when you load them up like that. So, do I really need a jacket? Yes. It should fit well, it should be clean and not wrinkled, it should be a neutral color, preferably dark, and it's something that you've worn before, or if you're borrowing a jacket, you need to practice with it a bit. There's a really interesting website that has all these things about jackets, and what's a blazer versus a sports jacket, things like that. A jacket gives men a certain amount of believableness, of gravitas, of this guy's got a jacket. He's playing the game. He knows the rules. He showed up, he's got a shirt and tie, and he's got a jacket. And if you're 1 out of 20 applicants, and they just have shirts and ties, and you have a shirt and tie and jacket, you're already ahead. That's all there is to it. It's just the rules. It's just you showed up wearing a jacket. Now, on page 5, if you can possibly show up in a suit, that is the epitome. I don't care if it's for a retail job, or what would you be doing for, like, what kind of an interview would you be looking to go on?
Like a face interview, it's white tie. Like, I'm not sure what the question is.
I mean, what kind of jobs would you be looking for?
Would be some kind of a computer engineer, some kind of company.
Okay, so you're an IT person,
Yes.
like me. Okay. So, for IT, if you show up in a suit and a tie, you will be like, you can actually get dressed, and you're an IT person. Because, you know, sometimes we have this reputation for not being able to get dressed in the morning and things like that. If you can show up snappy and good looking in a suit, I mean, you're home free, man. If you think that you could show up in a tie and a shirt, you'll look like everybody else. But what you want to do is stand out. And if you can show up in a suit, even if you have to borrow it, it's well worth it. And if you're going to borrow it, or if you're going to borrow that jacket, you need to practice wearing it, get fully dressed up, go through a dress rehearsal. Because like I said, this is theater, right? And make sure that you can, when you sit down with that jacket, that it doesn't do this. Because there's a broadcaster trick. When you go to sit down and you're wearing a jacket, these guys probably know this. You're going to pull this thing down on your butt and you kind of sit on the edge of it. Watch broadcast news. John Hurt goes through how to do this. But if you can wear a suit, if you can possibly handle wearing a suit, do it. You will not regret it. It is better to be overdressed than underdressed. Yeah, let's see. Don't ever take the jacket off during an interview. It implies too much informality. And guys, a lot of guys the jacket will be buttoned, and then when you sit down, you unbutton it because it'll gap and do all kinds of weird stuff. So practice wearing a jacket, either a sports jacket or a blazer or a suit. Practice with that. Practice being at ease with that clothing. Because when you want to get on that interview, you don't want to sit there and try to figure out if your fly's down, right? You want to be totally in control of those clothes. And the interview will notice that too. Another thing about if you've got long sleeves, which you should be wearing long sleeves, you want to make sure that they kind of stick out a little bit on the end of those cuffs, so it doesn't look like you have a short sleeve shirt on underneath that jacket. Yeah, it's called shooting your cuffs. You're gonna like grab them and you're gonna like pull them out. There's some really good websites on there. And then more really crazy advice on page 7. Don't eat in the car. Brush your teeth. Don't overpower your interview people with this really bad minty breath. But just make sure they have a breath mint before. Again, if you have a chance, go check yourself in the rearview mirror in your car or in the restroom at the place that you're at. Don't ever use any kind of cologne or aftershave, because maybe you come in with Brute or something like that. And I used to date a guy that wore Brute, and I'm like, subliminally, I'm going to smell that smell, and I'm going to remember that guy, and I might not even think about that. So you don't want to smell like anything. You know, just, soap and water is fine, but don't go in with, tons of aftershave or anything like that. You want to be all about your face and what you're going to talk about. You don't want to throw that person off, who's very good chance that it's a woman, with some kind of aftershave that you just completely. Another thing you want to be sure and take is some kind of small pad and pencil, pen, whatever, and bring it with you. It's going to be your prop. You're going to be able to hold on to it. And maybe you've taken some notes, like before you got there. Like, this is the largest pet store chain in the world, or something to do about that company. Let them see that you've written those notes. You're not going to take notes during the interview, but if the person that you're interviewing notices that you're ready to go and can take notes, pen and pencil or paper, they're going to see that you're responsible and that you're going to listen to what they're saying, and that you're ready to do the job. I want to come in there and I want to show you that I am ready to do this job. For an IT interviewer, they're going to ask you to write some code. They're going to ask you to, connect a computer up to a network. That you might be asked to do something really, really hairy. And if you're, and they're going to tell you, okay, you want me to set up an IP address, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got it, So you want to be ready for all of that. And give them the impression that you can step into that job right now. And if they say, well, you need to do this and this and this and this. I mean, one time I was told, okay, you need to write an SQL statement with a subquery and this and this and this and this and this. And I went, what? You want me to do what? So I had to ask for, can I write that down? And I had to get the pen off the guy's thing, and they gave me a piece of paper and, do this and this and this. And, man, did I ruin my recipe. So it's kind of nice. You have a prop, and you also need to have, with that pad of paper, a paper resume that you can hand to that person. I know you probably applied online. I'll do. But when you go in there and I sit down and, I'm talking to you, I'm the applicant, and I answered all these questions. I managed not to drool and get through the whole thing, right? Here's my resume, and I'm going to hand it to you. Okay, see what happens? We have a human interaction. There are some people who would say, it would even be better if I somehow touched your hand, because then I would remember that we made a connection. And all the rest of the people that came in didn't have a resume, obviously on nice paper and all that kind of stuff. Didn't have a resume. But you got that from me. So we established a connection, a bond. Maybe we didn't quite touch, but we got close. Don't bring your cell phone to an interview. Now, if you must do this, because maybe you have something on the cell phone like a portfolio or something, or you have something, look, I wrote this out. You might be applying, I wrote this out. Then I think that might be okay to do that, but the best thing to do is just leave it in the car and don't bring it in. If you have a beard, make sure it's reasonably trimmed. You might be interviewed by a person with a beard. I can tell you that 20 years ago, you didn't walk into an interview with a beard. It just didn't happen. Okay. So now all of that has changed. Jewelry on guys, earrings, totally okay. Nice, small, something not too big. A watch is a good accessory to have. Even if you don't wear a watch, find one, wear it for the interview. People think that you would be on time. Be very careful about your shoes. No sandals, matching socks, closed-toed. Well, you guys don't care about that, but women, there's something about closed toes. Open toes, I don't know what it is, but it just drives interview people up the wall. And so once you have this really great package, and you've sat down and you're comfortable in your clothes, you also have to make sure that your body language shows that. So you don't want to sit down and just, because this is body language, and what is this telling you?
You don't care.
I don't care,
I'll get the job easily.
or maybe I'm too overconfident, too cocky, right? Or a lot of people see crossed things as defensive. I'm going to put this wall up, and I'm not going to allow you in. So if you're talking to me, and look, you've got your hands slightly folded, and you're talking to me, and I'm the poor slob being interviewed, right? And I'm like this. Or you think you're getting through to me? My head's down and everything. So what you want to do is, maybe hold on to your props, your resume or your pad of paper or whatever, and you want to keep your body open to the person that you're talking to. Because that person is really trying to establish a connection. That's his or her job, is to establish a connection. And if they're good at their job, they're going to see that you're like nervous or sweaty or whatever, and they understand that because maybe they interview people several times a week, or some people do it like 2 or 3 times a day if it's a big company, and they just get tired and bored and whatever. So try to make it as easy on the person talking to you. You want to lean forward, maybe hold on to your stuff, look at that person, because that person is really truly trying to establish a bond with you. And they don't want to be distracted by loud clothing. They don't want to be distracted by, group aftershave. They want to concentrate on your face and what you're saying and your attitude and your bearing. And you could probably, if you look good and you're talking like this, and you could probably sit there and drool. You'll get the job because you are being open and honest, and you've played by the rules, you worn the right stuff, you showed up on time, right? And you get to that point and you got it 90% there. The only trouble is, everybody else is doing the same thing. So you have to somehow, after you've gone through several interviews, you got to figure out, you have to learn from the interviews, and maybe think, well, maybe I was overdressed. Or maybe I wasn't dressed up enough. You have to learn from each one of them and consider each one of those interviews a rehearsal. Because the real interview, the real one that you're going to get the job, that you're going to be successful, you're going to also remember all the right things you did there too, because you put it all together and got successful. So don't consider going to all these interviews and not getting the jobs. Because like I said, I've probably been on 30 years, 50 interviews, and I've only really had 10 good jobs in those 30 years. So don't get discouraged. Remember, the guys with trash cans and you will get there, but you can do it. And don't think of the times that you didn't get the job as failures. Just think about what happened and what went wrong. And was I dressed right? And did I have a good body language? And were my shoes dirty? Because all of these things, we can just tell you what to do. The reason why we're telling you to wear this and look this way and wear these shoes is so you, as the person, comes across in the interview. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many interviews have you done before you get your first job?
My first IT job, way back then, there wasn't very many IT people. And I got involved in the industry very early on in the Bay Area. I actually knew Bill Gates. And I started working for a hardware company. And I was just lucky. I was in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. But I have read that in any given position, there are like 12 qualified applicants for a position. And it can be, you know, like 1,200, but, you know, for basically a job that you would be getting, an entry-level job, there's going to be a lot of other people. And I'm going to say 10 interviews before you get a job. I know that sucks. But by the time you're on that 11th interview, you are a pro. You're like ready for an Academy Award. You know, you have done all the right things. You got the suit, you got the tie, you got the shoes, you got the, you know, you can sit there and write those SQL statements and you can, you know, wire that network. You can do that. You're going to be a pro and you're going to be wanted. The first time you go to an interview, they're going to know you're a rookie. But they might like that. They might really like the fact that this is your first interview. And you can tell them that, and you can be honest. And they'll go, wow, this guy's there's something to that. But after you go through these interviews, and you're going to know, like, it's going to come out of your mouth, and you're going to go, man, I shouldn't have said that. You're going to know that. So you're going to get really good at pausing a moment and answering those questions with a little more deliberation than just, blah! You know, they're going to ask you, why do you want this job? Blah! Okay, that's going to be the first 5 interviews. But maybe on the 6th interview, when you're asked that, you're going to say, because this is a company that I'm really interested in, and I know that you happen to be doing some work in this area, and I'm really interested in that. You're going to only know that because you failed 5 times. A wise man once told me, you only learn from your mistakes. And boy, is that true in IT. When you do something wrong in IT, the failures are epic. But you can just chalk those first 5 interviews up to practice and rehearsal. And don't get discouraged. And I'm sure a lot of those people that are interviewing you will completely understand. And they will offer you suggestions. They might even say, you know, well, the next time you do this, you know, you might want to think of it this way. You know, why do you want to work with animals? Okay. Why do you want to work with animals?
The reason why I want to work with animals is because I find them very interesting, and also they're very good to actually like interact with, especially when it comes to actually knowing the animal.
So can you give me an example?
Pretty much, it's like a typical day, I have to say, is pretty much just cleaning up after the animal, just making sure the animal's really happy in its environment.
So you care about whether that animal's happy or not?
I do.
Oh, okay. So maybe that would have been the better thing to say. That, you know, because I'm interested in keeping animals healthy and happy, and, you know, I take great pleasure in keeping their environment clean and keeping them safe. So that's what I mean about, that's a little teeny tiny example. You know, I'm an old person, I've done this for a long time, where I learned to, here was my answer right out of the chute. But later on, maybe the better answer would have been, I'm very interested in keeping them clean and healthy and their environment. You know, and all of that has to do with your first answer, which was the interaction. So that was really a good start. So I think you guys got it. Any more questions?
Yes. On your first interview, do you know any of this? Like how much knowledge do you know with it? No?
No. Your first interview will probably be a world-class disaster. No, I'm just kidding. Really, if you think about this, and it, you know, stuff on here that I've just basically told you about, this is the game, it's theater, you have to know your role, you have to know your part, you have a costume, you have props. You're already way ahead of the very first interview I ever did when I was your age. Because I think you probably got more figured out than you give yourself credit. So good luck, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got it.